It was John Brown.
John Brown can't be the star player.
I know.
So obviously we don't agree on everything.
Right. Really? Historians not agree, yeah. Everyone's human out here. A lot of really cool things people do, and there's a lot of like, what were you thinking?
Hi everyone, I'm Janelle Molony, author and historian, and I'm at Fort Casper with my friend Steve Dacus from the 11th OBC and Research Arsenal.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Next question. We want to pick out our favorite sideline character. So not in the military, but maybe they are retired or they get involved. So who's that guy that stands out, or girl? There are none. There are no girls. Sorry, ladies. It's just not a sexist thing. They just weren't there.
Your book is full of women.
Yes, but okay, maybe there's a side character that's, I don't know. Best sideline character, non-military in the response.
In the response of the raids? Ooh. Well, see, if you qualified it in the response.
Now, hang on a second. Before you start writing comments about, hey, this feminist lady is not coming up with answers for the women who are getting involved. The question, as Steve reminded us all, is qualified by the response to the Platte River Raids, not being in the Platte River Raids, because women, yes, absolutely. And there are tons of stories in this book, Immigrant Tales of the Platte River Raids, with examples of the women fighting alongside with their spouses, protecting their children, rounding up the stock animals, etc. But after the Platte River Raids, did the women get involved to do something about it? So here's where I'm going to land with that answer now that I've had time to think back and not so on the spot. Honestly, I think I was just throwing that out there to see if Steve could really get out of his biases and just see things from someone else who wasn't military and see if he could do that. And he did very well. I'm impressed. Okay, so here's where I'm going to land. The women did respond after the events, I think, in a spectacular way by writing everything down. They wrote letters, they wrote essays for the World's Fair, they just chronicled everything in their diaries, and then they preserved those documents or published those documents so that one day someone would discover the full truth, and I'm very glad for that. So I will revise my answer and say that if we are going to isolate the women's response, it would be the women who wrote it all down, because without that contribution, I don't think we would truly know and understand the complexity of the raids like we do now.
My original answer, before you said in the response of the raids, would have been, see, I'm bringing in all my bias into this video, is, which funny, has nothing to do with the raids because he was hanging out at Fort Laramie, but the mountain man, Jim Bridger, right?
Okay.
So after the raid, so I'm going to kind of bring it in here. So Mary, the little girl, Mary dies. She gets killed. Then they have this detachment of, I think, the Iowa Cavalry. They go out for however many days, and they're trying to find the Indians. They can't find anything, and they come back to Fort Laramie, and they say, no, there's not any Indians for miles around. And like right then, like a movie, like a handful of Indians go literally through the parade grounds of Fort Laramie, scaring off horses and driving them off. And they chase them, and then they come back. And the reason I bring this up is because they come back, and one of the officers writes in his diary about meeting Jim Bridger, this is famous mountain man who was this connector between the old days. Like he was with Hugh Glass, mountain man's way back decades ago, and he's a connector because he's a guide for the military from 62 to 64.
But a good guy, not like John Bozeman.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so for me, I'm fascinated with Jim Bridger because he's the guy, he's here from start to finish. Before the military is here, and then he goes home in 65, I believe. But he was at Fort Laramie during this whole thing. So that's what I would have said, but he didn't do anything during this window of time that you're talking about. So as far as in response to the raids, it's easy to go to Reinhardt because he actually was doing things.
Oh, at the end, his men did follow his instructions to the letter. He went up in an expedition and he said, don't fire anything unless I'm going to go in and we're going to talk peace.
Right.
I do not fire unless someone leaves this building before I'm done.
Right.
And he's the first one to leave the building because he's done.
Yeah.
They killed him.
Yeah.
They followed his order. Like, nobody was like, wait, that's our guy?
Yeah.
They just followed orders.
No, there's so many stories like that you read, you're like, what in the world just happened? And then you read, like, a month goes by and there's another story like that from another company a few forts down. Like, it's amazing how crazy from 62 to 65 was. It's funny about this conversation is I hate like narrowing down people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the easy answer is maybe like the men who are protecting their families when they corral these wagons multiple times over that week or 2 weeks that you write about. The fact that these guys are bringing their families across, trying to protect them, doing the best they can, and the husbands trying to protect their families is probably who I would kind of a no name, just general. I like those. And what's interesting too is one of the first attacks that you write about. It was the one that Fanny was with.
Yeah.
That the two men, one guy gets shot through the leg with an arrow and falls down, and they run off. And the wife, one of the wives, she doesn't really blame them. She's like, well, and they ran off to save themselves, and you just try to be in that perspective of, you don't want to dog on them, be like, oh, cowards, but at the same time, they knew, in that context, they knew that the best chance for their families was for them to stay alive.
Stay alive, go get help,
exactly.
Reinforcements. All accounts said that William Lammer and Josiah Kelly were unarmed.
Right.
So what are they going to do?
Exactly. It was funny. I do like how you add the different contexts or the different conflicting accounts, and you write little side notes in there. It's like, well, maybe he did have a pistol, maybe he didn't have a pistol. I don't know, but it sounds like, and I'm with you, like they probably weren't unarmed. And what are you going to do? You're running away from flying arrows. You're not going to do anything. If you turn around and fight, it's a suicide mission, and they know that.
Yeah.
So what do? Guarantee I die at least honorable, or run away and hopefully buy myself time to get reinforcements and come back and save my family. And so maybe, to answer that question is, I tend to enjoy just the standard common man, meaning family, women, children, whatever, the common person who is just trying to get through life, go to Oregon or California, wherever, and keep their family safe. So maybe that's my answer. I don't know. I'll stick with that one.
Okay, so you made me change my answer now. Not that I agree. Yes and no.
Yeah.
But in particular, I enjoy George Foreman after the raids when he's leaving Platte Bridge Station and he runs into, I firmly believe, all of Chief Bill's men who are just coming up from Utah.
Right.
They've just been in their own battle that has nothing to do with this. And he doesn't run in fear. He doesn't judge them. He approaches them. They have some kind of a letter that says, I'm a friendly Indian.
Yeah.
And he tells them, you don't want to go that way.
Right.
They're not going to like you. They're not going to trust you. You need to get behind Red Buttes. You need to get off the trail. And he, for some reason, he's not the sharpest tool in the box.
He's not, definitely
he's
not.
Barefoot. He walks barefoot for like 1,000 miles.
Right.
But I just give him credit because he's all alone.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a family with him or even a team with him. And he's easy pickings. And yet he didn't get scared. He talked to them. He understood, obviously they're not involved. They're not part of this. And he protected them by giving them that little bit of a window to get off the trail and to know that something was up.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. But I also really love former Indian agent Thomas Twist, too, who's like, I've got Chief Bill. He's under house arrest. Don't worry.
Right.
He won't go anywhere. Good. And then instantly out the back door.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder for sure.
There is also this unnamed guy with a French name. And maybe it's Twist. I don't know. Is Twist French? Tell me. So that goes down to Fort Laramie where they've captured Bill's wives and children, or his band's wives and children. And there's just this, obviously this person has a blind trust. I know these people, they know me. So he says, hey, you got the wrong limit in children. Those ones are mine. And the soldiers there are like, okay. and they get free.
Yeah.
So I don't know who that guy was exactly, but he's definitely
Right.
he fooled somebody,
Yeah.
and it was
Oh, yeah.
awesome. He saved those women. So yeah.
No, that's good. I like that. I didn't even think about that. That's a good
Okay,
one.
maybe he's in the database. Maybe somebody mentions the
I don't
French
know.
guy by name.
Maybe. I doubt it because it's more Eastern letters, but he might be in there.
Now, I'm not asking you to do the research. Tell
Right.
us, who
Is
was
it in
the
there?
French man who saved the women and children? Get in there.
Right.